The transgender viewpoint has lost 15.5 million of its own supporters in the US alone. It seems that belief in the transgender idea is collapsing.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another exercise in Brainsmanship.
In May 2022, Pew Research found that 60% of US adults believe that gender is determined by the sex assigned at birth, compared to only 38% who said that a person's gender can be different from their sex assigned at birth. But that's not quite the full picture. Support for the transgender view is actually down 6% from September 2017, and the rate of decline has recently increased. From 2017 to 21, it lost 3% of support from the overall population over about a 4-year period. But from 2021 to 22, it lost another 3% over just a 1-year period. While this survey presents these figures as percentages of the overall population, the picture becomes much more grim if we consider them in terms of the loss of believers within the transgender camp specifically. Losing 3% of the total population from 2017 to 21 amounts to a 6.7% decline in the transgender camp's own believers over about a 4-year period. But from 2021 to 22, the transgender camp lost 7.3% of its own believers in only about a 1-year period. Moreover, losing 6% of the total US adult population means that the transgender view lost about 15.5 million of its own supporters from 2017 to 22. Importantly, this loss did not result in 15.5 million undecided people. Rather, there was a corresponding 6% jump in the view that gender is determined by the sex assigned at birth. So the traditional view also gained 15.5 million in this same window. That results in a total of 155 million for the traditional view and about 98 million for the transgender view, for a difference of 57 million. So the traditional view has almost 58% more supporters than the transgender view. Because the transgender view is based on social construction, this data is extremely important. For something to be socially constructed, it means that it's a concept that society shares, recognizes, and creates through social consensus. Clearly, we've not done that with the transgender category because it's not our social consensus in America, meaning that no one in our society is transgender according to social constructionism. For more on that, see my last video. But let's say that you doubt the data from this survey. Perhaps you think that there are statistics out there that would show support for the transgender view more favorably. First, keep in mind what I mean by support. I'm not talking about support for trans rights or support for using certain pronouns or for any kind of policies. I'm asking the question in this video and the last of whether our society has constructed gender in such a way that people can be trans. That's a question about how we determine what gender a person is, not a question about how we should treat people. That's why I'm looking at a survey that asks if gender is determined by the sex assigned at birth. This indicates whether people think you can change genders based on your internal experiences, or if they think gender is fixed and determined for you by external factors. Statistics about pronouns or rights don't tell me anything about this. But maybe you think that the survey is too old. A lot can change in 2 years. First, while things could hypothetically improve for the trans-inclusive view today, they could also hypothetically decline. So I can cancel out that hypothetical appeal with one of my own, especially since the trajectory is in my favor. Second, I'm looking for statistics that show change over time. For that, you won't find a better survey. The best way to show change over time is to have the same organization with the same methodology ask the same question over a period of several years. That's exactly what we have here with a massive sample size of over 10,000 people. That's over 5 times the size of most of the presidential polls. But let's pretend that the previous survey is wrong. Let's say that a clear majority of 60% believe the transgender view and think that a person's gender can be different from their sex assigned at birth. Is a 60% majority enough to call something socially constructed? Probably not. The next video demonstrates why, and why the problems for the transgender view get much worse than its accelerating rate of decline and its low acceptance levels in the US.
Have you really not subscribed yet? Well, I guess you must not be practicing your brainsmanship.